Evening, my fellow Americans.
Take the red pill.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
The disastrous rise of misplaced power exists.
All we have built, all we have worked for, would be destroyed.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
And this nation will not be fully free until all its citizens are free.
Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action,
These criminals cannot be rewarded.
so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction.
There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
They're coming after you, and I'm just standing in their way. Here I am.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
The cost of freedom is always high.
Those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
This is a crusade! This is a holy war against the deep state!
We never wanted to be right, but yet things are all adding up to the Firestorm.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you and your mother and your sister. I'm just done all of this. I'm sorry. No, no, Why? Do you really hate me that bad? Why? Do you really hate me that bad? Why? Do you really hate me that bad? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is where we bring you that unfolding global conspiracy, and a conspiracy it is. And a lot of people wondering what that video was. That was a compilation of all the triggered people after the election, put together into a heavy metal song, and I think it went really well. I think it's kind of one of those funny ones to watch, but unbelievable that it makes so much sense. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend and are doing well and getting ready for Turkey Day coming up here in the United States in about a week. At Canada, it's this week, right? I think so. But hope everybody is doing well out there. We are getting ready here, rocking and rolling full throttle. And tonight's episode is called The Systematic Destruction of the Old Guard. And yes, we are witnessing the systematic destruction of the Old Guard. And holy shit, do we got some things to talk about tonight. Oh my goodness. All right, well, I'll play this after. First thing we'll talk about is, did you know that Pluto just entered Aquarius? I don't know if you dabble in any of that astrology stuff, but I find this quite interesting. That Pluto has entered Aquarius. So this energy, quote unquote, from the astrologers claims revolution and rebirth. Tomorrow, Pluto leaves Capricorn and begins a 20-year reign in Aquarius, bringing upheaval, technological breakthroughs, and societal revolutions. Known as the planet of transformation, Pluto last entered Aquarius during the American and French revolutions. This transit signals decentralization, dismantling the hierarchies, and challenge to elite powers. Astrologers predict radical shifts, questioning capitalism and pushing humanity towards a fight club-esque of the New World Order that changes promise evolution but comes with destruction. I find it interesting. I'm going to have our good friend back on one of these Friday nights, Laura Lee, and talking about this. But we talked about this in an episode quite a few years ago. But this is the first time since the American and French revolutions that this has happened. And what do we have going on here? We have a second American Revolution, which was just fought with a battle of our vote. And it seems that the global cabal is about to change the dynamic of the situation, or at least attempt to try. Now, let's watch a few little videos. I like watching and having some videos to add in here. And the number one, this was retweeted or re-X'd by Trump. I think that it's good to watch these videos because it shows you how long this has been going on, where we've came from, and the rhetoric and disinformation that has came out from the media. Let's check this out right here. This is only a minute long, but let's check this one out.
They said he was done forever.
He is done.
The end of this Trump era.
There'll be new faces and new voices.
The final chapter of Donald Trump.
I don't know what the future of this party can be.
The movement we started is only just beginning.
The entire system went after
Mar-a-Lago was raided by FBI.
New York indictment.
A sweeping indictment in
Donald
Georgia.
Trump says he's been indicted again.
I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear.
But he never stopped fighting for you.
I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country.
And we will win, win, win. We're going to win, win, win.
Thank you, President Trump, for fighting for us. The greatest political comeback in American history.
Donald Trump has been elected president.
Now, it's time we fight for you.
The golden age of America, that's what we have.
The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. It seems to be a milestone marker of mapping out the next 4 years of Donald Trump. And I think that we have the potential to make it a golden age of American history. We have, by the way, in 2026, we have the 250th anniversary of the United States of America's birth, and that's going to be massive. I can't wait to see what happens that whole year in the sense of the parties that President Trump is going to put out there around America. It's going to be the 4th of July all year round, so that's going to be amazing. There's another video I want to put out there. It has some music to it, so I can't really play the full video, but there's something I want to show you in this video. And this came to my attention this weekend, and I said, oh, well, isn't that interesting? So I'm going to pull this up here, and I'm going to play, I'll try to play the whole video. But this was re-X'd by Elon Musk, okay?
Put on notice, if you fuck around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
2024 is our final battle. They stole our jobs and they plundered our wealth.
The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
The activation. Did you see it? Now, this was done by the Diddy meme team, which the Diddy meme team is absolutely full on patriots, and with that number right there, or that letter right there, 17. Now, I stopped it there because you're about to hear something which is kind of interesting.
The activation word, Ronald McDonald.
Activation word, Ronald McDonald. That's kind of interesting. So Lisa Mai put this out there that everybody's freaking out about RFK Jr. eating McDonald's, but didn't Elon just put out a major video and a comm in it the other day, the same day that they were eating this, that had code word is Ronald McDonald. And then just the other night after the UFC fight, you get this image posted on X of all of them eating McDonald's. Now, this could be just an epic troll towards Kamala, right? An epic troll towards Kamala, which I think it is. Or there's some hidden comms here. Always hidden comms. Speaking of hidden comms, on November 17th, Elon again, hidden comms at 4:20 Central. And I explained this in my Red Pill Daily Brief this weekend. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out. But there's 2 points here that you should be seeing right now. Number one is Elon Musk, and number two is General Flynn's reply. So Elon Musk posts at 4:20 Central Time. That's Elon Musk time zone. Remember, with 17 posts, we always go by the timeline, the timestamp of where that person kind of lives, right? So it's not necessarily always East Coast. But he posted at 4:20. And QAnon non-friend. General Michael Flynn responds back with popcorn. I find that highly interesting. Now, I find it interesting that Elon posted at 4:20 p.m. Central, Texas time zone. His post and Q17 drop both contain the word non. Is that a coincidence that post 4:20, non-win 10, multiple, secured heavily, all devices provide specifically for comms here? Is that Elon telling us that there's comms active and going on? I honestly do think so. I think that over the years, it's been shown that Elon is a part of this. And it makes sense if we go back to one of my original theories on the 17 team and all of that. You got to remember, in 2016, when Donald Trump came into the White House, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk were on his tech advisory board. I think that that's critically important. Palantir was a large company within U.S. intelligence and U.S. military. And so we talked about how that integrates in to all of this. So I think that it's a very plausible scenario that Elon knows what's up, or he's just one of the people just like us. So those are some good comms. Those are great. But we've been waiting for the globalists, the deep state, the cabal, the fight back. We know that it's been just awfully quiet, and it doesn't make much sense. Last week, I talked about the rhetoric that was coming from the left. Many in the left were saying that Donald Trump colluded with Russia during this election, that it's impossible that he won, that we need to investigate this election, that they need to contest it on January 6th, all this stuff. And we're hearing all these aspects of collusion with Russia all over again with this election. Now, is that truthful? Was there really collusion in this election with Russia? I don't think so. I think that this is nothing more than a narrative being set up by the deep state, by the globalists. This is their plan to fight back. And let's listen to Adam Shifty Shift, little Adam Shifty Shift, talk about this. Now, this is the type of rhetoric that I'm talking about right here. Listen to this.
Obviously, he is bringing a group of people to disrupt. I mean, that is what Speaker Johnson said. And I'm wondering about how much anybody in Washington is being introspective at all about why there is this kind of opening for disruptors, if not necessarily these individuals. You were censured in the House last year for, in their view, holding positions of power during the Trump presidency as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And according to them, quote, abusing this trust by saying there was evidence of collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. And I wonder if you are feeling at all introspective at all about that was, according to the Mueller report and according to your Republican colleagues, an overstatement. And I wonder if you think in any way you help set the table for these disruptors.
First of all, it wasn't an overstatement. There is evidence of collusion. The Trump campaign manager was meeting with Russian intelligence and giving them internal polling data, just to give you one example. And the Mueller report sets all this out.
It does say, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities, which doesn't mean that he didn't, that there weren't meetings, but they didn't find evidence.
Mueller says that too. He says the fact that we didn't find proof beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean there wasn't evidence of conspiracy or coordination. So, but look, that's not what people were voting on. People were voting on, is this guy going to improve the economy? Is he going to address inflation? And we didn't persuade the American people that we had a better answer to that question, that we had a better...
So Adam Schiff there, resetting the Russia narrative. Now, why is that important? Donald Trump came out today and started talking about World War III all over again. A few different things happened this weekend. Before I play Trump's video on the matter, let me go over a few different things that we have to kind of set the floor with. Number one, the Biden administration's approval of the use of Ukraine for ballistic missiles. I'm going to read you my post. The Biden administration approval of Ukraine's use of long-range ballistic missiles against Russia will have devastating effects if Zelensky decides to move forward with the strikes, which, as Zelensky said today, they definitely are planning. Putin has drawn a thin red line on the use of NATO-supplied ballistic missiles. If they are used inside Russia territory to target military, energy, and civilian infrastructure or resources, expect a massive escalation by Russia, including but not limited to equal force retaliatory strikes. With a transition from the Biden to Trump administration underway, this move by the Biden deep state is a major backstabbing of the peaceful transition promised. This decision will have serious and consequential ramifications globally if Ukraine decides to strike Russia, including a major escalation of war in Eastern Europe and the possibility of drawing NATO countries within the region. Now, I posted this yesterday. The deep state is desperate and needs chaos on the global scene, either as a mechanism to draw social destabilization here in the U.S. or to create a national security crisis where the possibility of seizing power comes afoot. With the latest rhetoric from the left that Trump colluded with Russia to win this last election, it is easy to see the narrative being set that an escalation of U.S. involvement in the Ukraine conflict is a large possibility. Then using January 6th to argue Trump's allegiance to Putin as a method of disqualification. That is currently underway right now. Okay? Those talks, those discussions, all of that are currently underway right now. So, for the last 2 years, U.S. and Western intelligence have warned about Russia's sabotage of an undersea cables from the Baltic region to Germany. This is the same rhetoric that they utilize in talking about the Nord Stream pipeline, which they blamed Russia for originally, but it was really the U.S. and clandestine services. Over the past year, NATO has prepared for full-scale preemptive strikes on Russia with an invasion planned of over 350,000 U.S. troops and NATO's troops from Poland into Russia. Earlier this year, NATO ran war game scenarios of this scale of attack. In recent days, with the Biden administration proving the use of long-range ballistic missiles, and now today, with the undersea cable being cut, which they'll be blamed on Russia. It hasn't happened yet. It appears NATO is going to move forward with World War III. So I find this really, really interesting. We have this false flag alert that I put out today. Underwater communication cable has had its connections cut. This is Nord Stream 2.0, people. This has been warned in the past by Western intelligence that Russia would destroy this cable. Although there is and has been no indication that Russia gives two shits about this cable, as well as a blame being blamed on Russia. This act has most likely been committed by the powers that seek war with Russia this week, blamed and Russia and used as a reason for NATO to begin the war campaign against the Russian Federation. Shit is about to get real. So, isn't it interesting that on the same day that the German underwater communication cable is cut, no blame has been happening. A day after the Biden administration gives the green light for Ukraine to utilize U.S. ballistic missiles. By the way, do you people understand how ballistic missiles operate? Think about it this way. A ballistic missile launches into space and then it comes down on a target. The way that that is coordinated is through various different satellite systems, communication and targeting acquisition systems. Those are all run by the United States. Ukraine pushes the button, the United States does the rest. They even pick the targets, and we know that the U.S. has been picking the targets. I'm going to play a clip from Putin here in a minute, but Putin already said this is an act of war from the West onto Russia. Now, isn't it interesting that in the last 3 days, we saw the Biden's deep state authorize the use of ballistic missiles inside Russia, the cutting of the communication cable between the Baltic regions and Germany, right? And then today, Germany's federal army is instructing companies on readiness for potential conflict under the secretive 1,000-page Operation Plan Deutschland. The plan targets critical infrastructure protection, cyber attack resilience, and civil military coordination. Firms are urged to develop crisis action plans immediately, train employees, and enhance self-sufficiency with resources like diesel generators. Meetings, such as the one in Hamburg just today, stress logical readiness and workforce training. The Army reportedly anticipates deploying forces to NATO's eastern flank while relying on civilian support for energy, transport, and defense. Now, Germany's interesting because they're the one that have a primary reliance on Russian and Ukrainian oil. And obviously Nord Stream put a damper in that. But Germany today is preparing for war. We have 4 days ago, the president of France, Macron, comes out and states that under the Trump administration, we as France are going to have to prepare for a trade war with the United States. Why are European nations all of a sudden afraid of Trump? Because Trump is going to go in there and he's going to renegotiate every single damn economic deal on the table, and Europe doesn't want this. And you got to remember, we're watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. Who is the old guard? It is all the dynastical bloodline families from Europe. It is all the globalist regimes which are headquartered in Europe. The United States for the last 50 to 80 years has been nothing more than a proxy for this old guard establishment in Europe. You are watching them falter and fray and eventually collapse, and that is coming faster than you could ever imagine. So, Donald Trump had a response to all this. But first, before we go to Donald Trump's response, I want to play Putin's response. Now, Putin came out yesterday, warned of world war over Biden's Ukraine long missile approval. Russia slammed Biden's approval of long-range missiles in Ukraine as reckless and dangerous, claiming it drags the U.S. closer to a conflict with Russia. Putin had a few different things to say about this, just translated into English. Let's listen to it because he's right. I'm not a Putin lover. I think he's a dangerous man, but he's right in what he says.
In the updated version of the document, aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the support of a nuclear state, is proposed to be considered as their joint attack on Russia. Russia will also consider the possibility of using nuclear weapons when receiving reliable information about a massive launch of means of aerospace attack and their crossing of our state border. This includes strategic and tactical aircraft, as well as cruise missiles and drones, hypersonic and other delivery vehicles. Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons in case of aggression, including if the enemy, using conventional weapons, poses a critical threat.
It is important to note that
Now, I want you to see something here. Look at the look on the face of the people in the room with Putin. It's glim. It's doom. Why? Because Putin isn't messing around. Putin is standing firm saying, if you do this, we reserve the right to utilize nuclear weapons. I want people to truly understand that. We knew that the globalists would have to have some type of catalyst event in order to usher in the end of the Trump dynasty and to take and seize control of the United States. I call this the Firestorm. I've been talking about it for 4 years. And we looked at how all of this begins to ramp up. Right now, the stage is being set for all of this. How about this? When Ukraine fires ballistic missiles into Russia, if those missiles hit targets and produce mass destruction of Russian nuclear facilities, of Russian energy infrastructure, of civilian components like Moscow, Kremlin, these types of things, you can expect Russia to retaliate against first Kyiv. Kyiv will be the first target, and it'll probably be a Moab right on top of Kiev. Okay? Then, if the West pressures through the destruction of this cable, underground cable, and blames Russia on that, you could see a preemptive strike by the West, Ukraine, and then the NATO joins in and begins their strikes to make sure that Russia can't counteract, which would engage the world, US and Europe and NATO and Russia, into a global conflict where Russia then sits with China, North Korea, Iran, the axis of evil, on their belt of allies, which is going to usher in a global war. This ultimately would bring about massive economic destabilization, primarily within the energy infrastructures of the world. Gas prices would skyrocket beyond anything you understand, and then that's going to hyperinflate the cost of goods and services here in our country. Remember, we only have, as a country, 16 days left of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is meant as an asset of national security utilized in exactly that situation. If this did occur, war did break out, you can damn well bet there would be a draft first of the inactive ready reserve, secondarily of 18 to 25-year-old males, and then maybe extended to 35-year-old males. During this point in time, the Biden deep state would seize power. They would utilize presidential emergency action directives. They would go in under the War Powers Act and they would seize the government, just like Zelensky did in Ukraine when Russia did their military campaign. They would arrest anybody that they believe supported Russia, like President Trump. They would go in and arrest members of Congress as Russian colluders. This is how it operates. And this is the big coup that they're planning because they have no other fucking choice, people. They are done. They've been systematically wiped out. This is their last shot at securing power. And everything that Donald Trump is saying that they're going to do, they're going to do. And it's going to drain the swamp bigger than you could ever imagine, which means that it's not going to be 4 years for the Democrats to take back over the United States of America. It's going to be generations. It's going to be a generation to take it back. So from this point, if global war does break out, we have economic collapse globally. The second part of the equation for the chaos in the world is the rising up of illegal immigrants throughout the United States. This is the military-age Chinese males. This is Hezbollah Unit 910. This is Tren de Agua. This is the cartels. This is all the violent extremists that have came over our border and been strategically placed within our cities. That is their go time when all of this begins to unfold, because then you have a nation in crisis. You have people who are hungry, no electricity, cyber attacks going on. You got warfare being waged. That is the scenario of global crises and chaos that they seek, because that is the only way that they can take back power fully and surely. Now, Donald Trump, not very happy in this video, comes out, and let's listen to what he has to say.
We have never been closer to World War III than we are today under Joe Biden. A global conflict between nuclear-armed powers would mean death and destruction on a scale unmatched in human history. It would be nuclear Armageddon. Nothing is more important than avoiding that nightmare. We will avoid it, but we need new leadership. Every day this proxy battle in Ukraine continues, we risk global war. We must be absolutely clear that our objective is to immediately have a total cessation of hostilities. All shooting has to stop. This is the central issue. We need peace without delay. In addition, there must also be a complete commitment to dismantling the entire globalist neocon establishment that is perpetually dragging us into endless wars, pretending to fight for freedom and democracy abroad, while they turn us into a third world country and a third world dictatorship right here at home. The State Department, the defense bureaucracy, the intelligence services, and all of the rest need to be completely overhauled and reconstituted to fire the deep staters and put America first. We have to put America first. Finally, we have to finish the process we began under my administration of fundamentally reevaluating NATO's purpose and NATO's mission. Our foreign policy establishment keeps trying to pull the world into conflict with a nuclear-armed Russia based on the lie that Russia represents our greatest threat. But the greatest threat to Western civilization today is not Russia. It's probably, more than anything else, ourselves and some of the horrible USA-hating people that represent us. It's the abolition of our national borders. It's the failure to police our own cities. It's the destruction of the rule of law from within. It's the collapse of the nuclear family and fertility rates like nobody can believe is happening. It's the Marxists who would have us become a godless nation worshiping at the altar of race and gender and environment. And it's the globalist class that has made us totally dependent on China and other foreign countries that basically hate us. These globalists want to squander all of America's strength, blood, and treasure, chasing monsters and phantoms overseas while keeping us distracted from the havoc they're creating right here at home. These forces are doing more damage to America than Russia and China could ever have dreamed. Evicting the sick and corrupt establishment is the monumental task for the next president, and I am the only one who can do it. I'm the only one that can get the job done.
You are absolutely Donald Trump. And so you heard him. In that statement, he said a lot of different things, but one of them is that we're going to reevaluate our position with NATO, our trade deals with Europe. This has got Europe scared. This has got the old guard in panic. But there's more to all of this. What specifically over the last few days have got the deep state's panties up in a bunch? Why is it all of a sudden coming out as fast as possible now? Well, listen to Tulsi right here.
Here are the undeniable facts. There are 25 to 30 U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. According to the U.S. government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Ukraine is in an active war zone with widespread bombing, artillery, and shelling, and these facilities, even in the best of circumstances, could easily be compromised and release these deadly pathogens. Now, like COVID, these pathogens know no borders. If they are inadvertently or purposely breached or compromised, they will quickly spread all throughout Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world, causing untold suffering and death. So in order to protect the American people, the people of Europe, the people around the world, these labs need to be shut down immediately, and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed.
Do you see why they're scared? What did she just warn us? If Russia attacks Ukraine, she's giving you hints here, right? She's giving us hints. If Russia attacks Ukraine and happens to hit one of these biolabs and it's intentionally or unintentionally breached, we got another pandemic on our hands. This is Trump's director of national intelligence here. She knows what she's talking about. She's right. We have to shut these biolabs down. This has got the deep state absolutely in panic because the deep state, the cabal, they know what's in those labs. They know what work they've been doing with gain of function and billions of dollars of laundered money into Ukraine. All of the targeted DNA viral weapons that they've created, and much, much more for ethnic cleansing. Remember, that's one of the reasons that Russia went in on the military campaign in Ukraine, is because the Azov battalions, along with biopharma companies, were operating out of those biolabs and creating genetically targeted bioweapons to utilize against the people in eastern Ukraine that have native Russian blood in them. Over 14,000 people in a 10-year period had died because of it. Putin decided to go in and end it. So now we see the span of events over the last few days. Biden comes out and announces that the Biden deep state is going to authorize Ukraine the utilization of U.S. ballistic missiles against Russia, which basically means the U.S. is going to strike Russia, with Zelensky pushing the button. Tulsi Gabbard coming out, warning us of the dangers of the biolabs that are in Ukraine and that they need to be shut down, but also giving hints and indications that those biolabs could easily, intentionally be breached and produce a global pandemic. Then what you get is Putin's response to Joe Biden's deep state administration, where he changed their policy, stating that if the U.S. or NATO nations intervene and give Ukraine those ballistic missiles and they launch them against Russia, that they will perceive that as an act of war by those nations and by NATO, and they will reserve the right to utilize nuclear warheads in battle. Then we get the German pipeline, or the German communication cable, gets snapped. The same one that 6 months ago the CIA was warning us that Russia was planning on destroying this German communications cable to the Balkans, even though Russia has no strategic whatsoever point to do it. That gets snapped. Right after that gets cut. Germany comes out and announces that they're preparing their military for war, even though no blame has been considered pertaining to the underground cable. There is absolute panic in the deep state. There is panic in Europe. There is panic in the international global order. There is panic in DC. They are petrified of what Trump and his camp and his administration is going to do, because what they're going to do is they are going to tell you the truth. They are going to reduce the pork and the fat on the side of government. They're going to reduce trillions of dollars of spending. Think about how many global institutions, NGOs, government contractors, countries rely on U.S. money coming in. All of that is getting shut down. That is a money laundering operation that is utilized to fund George Soros's riots and various different campaigns to get people elected around the world, to fund ESG, environmental social governance, to fund DEI and the trans agenda. It is all going down, and they know it. So what happens when your enemy is wounded and has their back against the wall? They will lash out, and they will lash out with fury and vengeance and fear. And that is where we are at. The good part is we're winning. That's the good part, is we are winning. But we have to avoid global conflict. So, what is the ways that we avoid global conflict? Well, this actually comes down to Vladimir Putin. So, I talked about this in my Red Pill Daily News Brief yesterday, Sunday. I'm not going to get too in-depth in it. If you want to watch that and go listen to it, it is posted on our Substack, our locals, and Social Red Pill. But I want you to think about it this way. Ukraine is going to launch U.S. NATO ballistic missiles into Russia. They are going to strike targets. Putin is going to have the ability to retaliate. He is most likely going to retaliate an eye for an eye. As in, if they hit critical infrastructure, Putin's going to hit critical infrastructure, but he's not going to use nukes. See, this is where I think there is a psy war going on. Putin is coming out angry, fearful, talking a big talk like we're reserving the right to use nuclear weapons. He's doing this for optics. They are baiting NATO. This is why Donald Trump just said, when I get in, we're going to reevaluate our relationship with NATO. They are baiting NATO. They are waiting to see what happens. If Zelensky makes a strike, what will NATO do? That is the key. Because let's just assume Ukraine strikes Russia. Russia does an eye for eye attack. And then all of a sudden NATO's like, we have to jump in. We have to go to war. And NATO strikes Russian targets. Russia does not retaliate. This is what the optics are all about. They are baiting NATO right now. The reason they are is because immediately when NATO strikes Russia, Russia goes to the United Nations Security Council. He goes to the United Nations and says, the hell is this? We're a sovereign nation. That's an act of war. Why are they doing this? And the United Nations knows Trump is coming in. They understand what's going on. And I think that the deliberation of what happens when Putin's reaction is diplomatic and not military is going to be all that's needed. Putin's reaction, if it's diplomatic and it's not military, will stop World War III from occurring. It'll take the wind out of the sails of the deep state, the international global cabal. Because, think about it like this. Ukraine strikes, Russia strikes Ukraine. NATO then begins a strike on Russia. Russia just sits there and goes, why are they doing this? We did nothing wrong to NATO. We didn't attack any NATO nation. And at that point in time, NATO is expecting and needs Russia to retaliate. They have to. In order for everything to continue from that point on, NATO will need Russia to retaliate. If Russia does not retaliate, it's over. The global conflict is over. Russia licks their wounds and takes the diplomatic effort because they know within 60 days Donald Trump's going to be in the power and that whole system is going to be destroyed. So I think what Putin and Trump are doing right now is optics. I think that what NATO is doing is posturing to produce this to get a rise and reaction out of Putin to kick off the global crisis, to kick off the Firestorm event so they can have the economic collapse, so they can do social destabilization. They can use presidential emergency action documents to take back power in the United States of America through military force. That doesn't happen if Vladimir Putin takes the diplomatic approach when NATO strikes. And I think that that's what you're going to get. I mean, think about it. The Trump administration right now is outplaying the deep state at every level. This is 5D chess. Former GOP Senator Mitch McConnell has reportedly sent a message to President-elect Trump saying there will be no recess appointments. Interesting. No recess appointments. Well, what does Trump do? Trump immediately comes out. Hold on. I just had it. Where'd you go? It is vowing to use the Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998 if the Senate stands in the way of confirming his appointments. This will allow for temporary appointments for up to 210 days. He's not lying. He has sent word to Senate Majority Leader Thune that if the Senate doesn't confirm AG Getz, he will appoint him using the Federal Vaccines Reform Act of 1998. Thune is on Trump's side. They're not screwing around. Now, Trump also stated that he's planning on announcing a national emergency immediately upon him being sworn in through executive order. This national emergency will be from the invasion at our border and will authorize him the use of the Insurrection Act to go out there and remove illegal immigrants, the dangerous ones, from our country with the utilization of the military. So, two other things happened globally that weren't really talked about. Going back to the war aspect of things, Kim Jong-un has the calls for war preparations within North Korea. You have 10,000 North Korean troops fighting in Russia's borderland. Now, Kim Jong-un told his military to get ready for war, blaming the U.S. and South Korea for pushing tensions on the Korean Peninsula in the worst phase of history. And he's right, because they are. But here's the thing. I think Kim Jong-un is probably not a dumb guy. And I think that this is more optics, because what they're trying to do is bait the globalists and the deep state. They want them to make a mistake, because then a country that is attacked is going to take a diplomatic response to it instead of a war effort. Now, this is another thing on the global scale that I need to talk about. Firstly, a deal has been reached between Lebanon and Hezbollah for a ceasefire with Israel. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump called up and said, Benjamin Netanyahu, it's fucking over. Stop it. Done. Take the deal. So that is a good thing. This weekend, rumors started circulating that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. TX channels and X are buzzing with rumors that Ayatollah of Iran is either dead or in a coma. No verified sources. Will keep everybody posted as it develops. Still no updates on that and no word from Khamenei. Now, why is that important? Because I told you that this was going to happen. I told you that Khamenei has been sick for the last 6 months. I said that Khamenei was worried that President Raisi, the Iranian president, before Marubek, was forming a coup because he sensed weakness and knew that Khamenei was dying and they were going to form a political power coup to take back over Iran. And so he had him killed. Iran took out their own president, installed some guy that they knew would operate with them. But they have multiple other people within the regime who are loyal to the West or collaborating with the West to bring about a regime change within Iran. If Khamenei dies, his son will take over, which is a weaker, way weaker leader and cannot unify the country. And so we have Iran poised for a massive destabilization and regime change. This was one of the main reasons why Israel has been eliminating the web of terrorist networks, the web of proxy networks of warfare of Iran, which they did. Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, they completely annihilated them. This means that Ayatollah passing away is going to come at one of Iran's weakest spots globally, as well as Iran's latest strike, or Israel's latest strike on Iran, damaged their nuclear development capabilities for the nuclear bomb. Remember, Iran came out and said they're going to retaliate, but they never did, because Khamenei most likely went into a coma in and around that time. Why is this important? We could see the fall of the Iranian regime without a single shot fired. Why? Because you damn well know that the Mossad, Western intelligence, are utilizing every aspect of a color revolution, of psychological warfare, to produce an uprising when Khamenei dies, to revolt against his son, to reinstall the Shah. Now, is that a good thing? I'm neutral on whether that's good or bad. But I want you to understand that a world with a new regime in Iran that is quasi-westernized is probably a good thing. Is it horrible for them to do that to governments? Yes, it is. Are all the governments involved, Iran, US, Israel, all terrorist organizations? Yes, they are. That's besides the point. We're seeing a shift in transition of global power around the world, the forming of a new world order. See, when you're watching the systematic destruction of the old guard, a new guard is being born. I've already talked about this, how BRICS is being set up as the global economic system of the future. We knew this because in the World Economic Forum in 2019 put out an article talking about the Silk Road Initiative, the new Silk Road that is being developed by the BRICS nations. Many of us believe that Donald Trump on his world tour, 2019-2020, made deals and negotiations with those BRICS nations to rise up economically first against NATO and the Western regions, to compete with them on an economic scale to get around U.S. sanctions, and secondarily to form a military alliance that is just as strong or potentially stronger than the Western military alliance, because that is the only way that you're going to see the old guard European nations begin to crumble. And so far, this is exactly what we've seen. So what we're seeing right now coming forth is revolution, global change, and global chaos. To what extent is that global chaos going to be? I don't know. I hope that we're just watching optics, and that when conflict does come about, that the diplomatic route is taken, because I think that that is going to be the most conducive for Donald Trump's transition, as well for when he gets into power. Because got to remember, if Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin take a diplomatic route when Western engagement occurs within the breakout of World War III, and they do not retaliate against the West, instead take diplomatic channels, they lost. The old guard loses. It's really that simple. They are done. Because if they cannot instigate World War III, then it becomes incredibly difficult to collapse the economy. It becomes incredibly difficult to produce a color revolution in the United States of America with the rising up of violent illegal immigrants. They can still do all that, but it's going to be much, much harder because of the growing extent of the non-destabilization occurring in the BRICS nations and in other nations around the world. This is the one catalyst event that they need to happen. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen if the diplomatic approach is taken. Now, I'm pretty sure about this. This is what we'll see. I hope this is what we're going to see, because we are going to see Ukraine launch ballistic missiles into Russia. You're going to see that. And it's going to be hell or high water. It's probably going to be any time in the next week. And it's going to be a very, very tense time. I believe Russia will retaliate. I think that they will drop a Moab on Kyiv, trying to take out Zelensky. But other than that, you're not going to see any much retaliation other than an eye for an eye. I think then NATO will begin a launch campaign against Russia, whether it's because Russia bombed Kyiv, because of the underground cable, whatever it is. NATO is going to go in with a preemptive strike. And then Russia's going to sit there and go, what are you doing? And then all the nations, China's going to immediately step forward and say, stop. The United Nations is going to be put on hold, and they're going to start looking at the Western nations as war criminals because of these events. But it's going to move to diplomatic channels after that point, especially after the engagement ends. So a lot could unfold any hour, any day, any week, any month now. We have 2 months till Donald Trump is back in office. So, Ray, we can hope and pray. Hopes and prayers, baby. Now, interesting enough, today, the Biden administration announces a massive World Bank funding for the poorest nations. Joe Biden has earmarked over $40 billion for the world's poorest nations through the World Bank. The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, are private organizations, basically an extension of the Federal Reserve and the globalist corporate bankers. This is nothing more than a money laundering operation. See, they understand that the systematic destruction of the old guard is happening. They understand that Donald Trump is going to take down the regime. So they're laundering as much money away from the federal government as humanly possible so that they can stay in power and utilize that money for, well, their revolution that they're about to wage. Ryan Savetta on X posts this. Democrats are launching a private military-grade intelligence gathering operation targeting major figures, including Elon Musk and more. Democrats have a growing belief that their efforts must extend beyond the political sphere. Trying to go on offense is a splintered media environment where conservatives have amassed more influence. One new liberal dark money group began prospecting for donors with a pitch that would unearth flattering revelations about the Murdoch family and Elon Musk, both pro-Trump media magnates. The group, called the 2+2 Coalition, plans to target the hidden sources of disinformation and expose them for what they are, according to the donor prospectus being circulated this past week. The group asked donors for a minimum investment of $1 million and was aiming for an annual budget of $10 million to $15 million. The group's senior advisor, Rick Wilson, a former Republican operative who was the co-founder of the Lincoln Project, pedophiles, said in an interview on Thursday that this organization would operate as an opposition research firm, but with a military-grade intelligence gathering operation that went far beyond the document vetting typical of a political campaign. That's what they're doing in public. In private, they're formulating protests, riots. They are probably funding the shit out of new rising up pro-immigration, pro-illegal alien rallies. They are funding the radical Islamic extremism that is occurring right now on U.S. campuses that have merged together in their efforts with the pro-Palestine, anti-Israel movements. They are funding them to go around the country to begin creating chaos on a moment's notice. And why would they want to be creating chaos? Because they can't win elections legitimately. They cannot win power legitimately. And for far too long, the Democrat Party, for far too long, the deep state has gone around the system of governance, the system of law, and they have stolen power and our elections and our wealth and our money. If you don't believe me, Bucks County, Pennsylvania right now are counting illegal ballots. They're trying to steal the election for the incumbent, Bob Casey, a Democrat, who is losing, who lost the election legally to McCormick. Now, this becomes really, really interesting because now they're saying that Bob Casey's about to take the lead after 20,000 ballots of illegal voters has been counted. Well, guess what? Pennsylvania Supreme Court orders Buck County to stop counting illegal ballots. This follows the admission from the Democrats and the Bucks County Commission openly saying they would begin counting misdated ballots, which many saw as an effort to steal the election from Bob Casey. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court released official documents stating that the mail-in and absentee ballots that failed to follow the requirements for the Pennsylvania Election Code should not be counted as the election took place on November 5th. Buck County officials have been officially ordered by the Supreme Court to stop counting illegal ballots. Now, Trump campaign manager Chris LaCivita came out and stated that officials in Buck County, Pennsylvania, who have counted illegal ballots will go to jail under the Trump administration. Senator Mike Lee, the Senate could refuse to seat Bob Casey if illegal votes decide the Pennsylvania race. Mike Lee warns that if Casey refuses to concede and Pennsylvania certifies votes deemed illegal, the Senate has the authority to reject him under Article 1, Section 5, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. Bob Casey, you're better than this, Lee added, urging Casey to concede and avoid further chaos. Now, in California, who spent 13 days counting ballots, and they're still not done because they had to find a way to cheat. Democrat Derek Chen has just taken the lead over the crucial California congressional seat by a margin of 31 votes. Republican incumbent Michelle Steele now falls behind. Trying to flip a Republican seat. Here is something to pay attention to with this race specifically. This is election fraud that is going on in California. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are producing ballots to win an election. That's what they're doing. But the Democrats truly don't understand the demographic they are dealing with. This is a densely populated Asian demographic in California, which consists of a lot of people who came from or are first generations of survivors of communism. These people won't sit idly by and let this happen. You have to understand that. This part of California, these people, this is Michelle Steele, who's Asian, and Derek Tran, who's Asian. These types of people survived communism. These are the ones that when you see the riots in California that have the AR-15s and AK-47s and are shooting people who are entering their store. These are the people that will fight you back because they love freedom. They are messing with the wrong demographic here. Now, will this get exposed? It's absolutely going to get exposed. Because the reason why California and Bucks County are cheating right now, because they believe that something's going to happen to stop Donald Trump from coming into power, which means that they will win power and then they won't be held accountable. Gavin Newsom already stated that if Donald Trump is in power on January 20th, 2025 at noon, that California is going to try to secede from the Union. Now, isn't that interesting? For the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been talking about a 10th Amendment civil war. I always talked about it in the sense that they stole the election from Donald Trump, and then the red states came together and they formed this secessionary mindset, kicking the federal government out and not recognizing federal authority. But now what if that actually happens with the blue states? I think that we actually have the ability right now to see the blue states begin to do this. But they have to be radical blue states. Oregon, Washington, California, it'll be those ones. But we can potentially see a 10th Amendment civil war being occurring right now. Now, here's the other key. These election officials are going to be held accountable under the Trump administration, whether their state says that they're seceding or not. An election judge in Hubbard County, Minnesota, has been arrested and charged with 2 felony counts for allowing 11 unregistered people to vote in the 2024 election. Timothy Sconton, and his name is Timothy Sconton, and he's now facing 10 years in prison and up to $20,000 in fines. In Minnesota, voters can register on election day, but this judge didn't make them fill out any paperwork. Wonder where else that happened. Trump's 2024 victory was fueled by a demographic shift, narrowing traditional gaps in gender, education, age, and race. Trump performed better among white men, white women, Hispanic men, and making gains among minority voters. His economic messaging resonated across a broad cross-section, securing all 7 swing states and totaling 312 electoral votes against Kamala Harris's 226. Safe blue states shifted heavily in Trump's favor, with places like New York, New Jersey, and Illinois showing notable changes. Trump's margins improved in every U.S. state, reflecting a nationwide realignment. What does that tell you? Too big to fail. Now, the deep state is already making preparations. Listen to this one. The Georgia court has halted all arguments in the Trump election case. That's right. A Georgia appeals court canceled the December 5th hearing in DA Fani Willis's election case against Donald Trump, offering no reason whatsoever. Trump sought to disqualify Willis over the alleged conflict of interest, but a lower court found no grounds for removal. The future of the case remains unclear. Just like the stolen or the classified documents case, it's gone. They are stopping their lawfare to cover their tracks, because if they continue it and perpetuate it into the coming months, those records will be preserved, and Congress will have the ability to tell these people to preserve their records for investigational inquiries. And so they're going to begin shutting these cases of lawfare down because they know they're unsubstantiated, so that they can begin covering their ass and their tracks. Now, this was interesting. I want you to watch this video and understand this. This is crazy. This is the G20 meeting that's occurring right now.
Where was he? They're telling Biden. They're telling him to wait for Biden, guys. Oh my God. Do you see him, Joe? Far left. Left to the left of the palm tree. Oh my God. But they took it. Yep. He's right there. Joe, he's behind the palm tree right now. Don't see it.
To give you an idea of what just happened here, the G20 leaders were taking their photo, which they do every year. Joe Biden was late. Nobody knows where he was or what he was doing. They decided to take the G19 photo without Joe Biden. Joe Biden showed up, and everybody in the G20 summit began telling all the world leaders, Joe Biden's here. We need to do the picture again. And all the world leaders walked off stage. Didn't give a shit. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene says reporters are shocked that world leaders at the G20 took a group photo without Biden. World leaders didn't wait for him to get on stage as Biden walked up and they all walked off. She then says, America is not respected anymore. Well, Marjorie, I vehemently disagree with you. America absolutely is respected. That's why we're seeing this. So they don't respect Biden, and they don't consider him anymore. They don't consider him a leader. They can look at him as a puppet and care less about doing a photo shoot with him, because Donald Trump is now the man. Donald Trump is the person that world leaders look at who's in charge of the United States of America. Every world leader is not calling Joe Biden. They're not calling the Joe Biden administration. They are calling Donald Trump, and they are calling the incoming administration. Understand that. World leaders are recognizing Donald Trump as right now the leader of the United States of America. That becomes incredibly important if the Biden administration, the Biden deep state, the Obama deep state, begin to do what we just talked about the last hour. If they try to utilize wartime powers to seize control and arrest Congress and Senate and Donald Trump, world leaders are not going to have it. They're going to recognize Donald Trump as the leader, and they're going to call for the arrest of U.S. political leaders in a coup attempt. Remember that. Quote me on that shit. They do not recognize Joe Biden. They do not recognize the current administration. They are recognizing Donald Trump. All right. You know, we have Maha coming. Maha. Are you excited for Maha as I am? I think it's going to be cool. I think Bobby Kennedy is going to do amazing work. I think that he is going to completely revamp everything in the sense of health. Now, guys, I got something coming out. I should have it out in the next few days. Many people have asked me, and we got a little bit more news to do. I got some news about Maha and stuff like that, but I just wanted to capture your attention real quick. Yes, we have the Red Pill merch store that is going to be coming out with absolutely brand new merch, different quality products. And so I want to put this out there just kind of as a soft flow to give you an idea of some of the products that we're going to have out there. I'll throw this one up there. That's a hoodie, Donald Trump number 47 with the Jack Daniels design. I got a great team that is doing some great design work for me right now, building out this. So I'm happy that we're going to be launching that here in the next probably few days. And if there's any Swifties out there, we even got Swiftie shirts. What I mean by that is in my Trump era. If you're a Swiftie, you know what that means. But yep, we got some cool stuff coming out, guys. Some shirts, some hoodies, beanies, ball caps. We got some limited edition stuff coming out that we're only going to have available for a certain amount of time, then we're never going to make it again. So if you guys are interested in the Red Pill merch store, let me know. Just give me a thumbs up. Hit those like buttons. Also, I want to put it out there. We do have the Red Pill Project Daily Briefs. The Daily Brief for tonight will be coming out in just a few hours. There's a few things that I'm going to cover that were not covered here. I'm going to go in depth on a few different things. If there are topics of people who are subscribed to the Daily Brief you want to hear, let me know. Comment below that or send me a message. You can always email me at redpillprojectsonline@gmail.com. That's right there. You can email me, give me your suggestions and tips for that. It's like $5. I mean, you can do different subscription types, but it's like $5 a month minimum. You get into the Daily Briefs, guys. And it does help support everything that we're doing here. So I appreciate everybody out there. Let me see. And if you want to subscribe to the Daily Briefs, redpillproject.substack.com is one of the best places to go there. Socialredpill.com. Social Red Pill, that's our private social network. Pretty cool place, guys. And then if you're on Rumble, you can just go to our locals. You find that link right below the video, redpillproject.locals.com. Soon to be X as well once we get approved on there. Now, going in the Maha, I'm not going to talk about all of our sponsors tonight. This show is sponsored by the Red Pill merch store. And I'll give that link out here in the next few days. So make sure you go to redpills.tv and you're subscribed to our email newsletter, or you're subscribed on our Substack. Those would be the two places: Substack, Social Red Pill, and our website, redpills.tv, because that's where that merch store will be coming out at when we do launch it. This is pretty profound. I want you to listen to the liberal audience and Bill Mayer's reaction to Dr. Casey talking about RFK in a place that is filled with enemies.
People kind of look at you like you're crazy because I think they just are in this world of doctors know everything. And I think you're telling us in medical school you learn doctors don't. I always say, if they know everything, why do you always have to get a second opinion?
Well, if they knew everything.
You're saying it's an opinion. And by the way, the second one never matches the first one. They're always guessing. I'm not saying they're corrupt, although there is some of that.
You know, if they knew everything, then why would we be spending $4.5 trillion per year on healthcare costs and life expectancy is going down in the United States? Why are 80% of healthcare costs going towards chronic illnesses that are rooted in diet and lifestyle, yet at the vast majority of American medical schools, doctors in training are not taking a single nutrition course? And so you have to ask these questions. If we were crushing it, we would not be spending 2x every other country in the entire world and have the lowest life expectancy of any developed country in the entire world. We are the sickest of the top 11 high-income countries in the world. We have the highest infant and maternal mortality rates, and our life expectancy is 10 years less than our friends in Japan and Switzerland. Right now, according to the Journal of American Medical Association, the average American man in America, age 73 is their life expectancy. It is 83 in Japan and Switzerland. This is something we should all be outraged about. And only one party in our election cycle this year was talking about chronic illness. The words chronic illness, as far as I know, never came out of the Harris campaign's mouth. And I think that was a misstep, because Americans are, I think, tired of being gaslit about the fact that there's not a problem right now. And when we look around us, and we know there is, and Trump has asked RFK to do 3 simple things. He's asked to get the corruption out of the U.S. health agencies, produce uncompromised evidence-based research for our health guidelines, and reverse the trends of the chronic disease epidemic in 2 years for children and adults so that we can show up for our 250th anniversary of America stronger than ever. That sounds pretty good to me.
And the crowd went wild, as they should, because she's absolutely right. We've been gaslit by our government, by all the agencies that were brought about to keep us safe. Doctors did harm people. Doctors did harm. And I hope that the majority of them that are guilty do have consequences. We are in an amazing time. We have 62 days, something like that, before Donald Trump takes office. It's not going to be easy the first 6 months. It's definitely not going to be easy the first year. It's going to be even harder to get to January 20th with everything that we just talked about in this show. Well, I'm back. I lost connectivity. So, what I was trying to say specifically is this. Stay positive. Stay hopeful. Say your prayers. Be very optimistic about the future. There's going to be a lot of shit thrown at us over the next few months. There's going to be a lot of things happening over the next year. Celebrate the victories. And get yourself ready for things that you've never seen before. The future is absolutely going to be amazing. We just have to get through all of this shit that's in the way. And we are at the last stages of ridding this world of that shit. So, guys, I hope you have a great night. I'm going to be doing the daily brief here in just a little while, and I'll get that posted. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. So Wednesday, let me see. Let me sure it's Wednesday, the 20. I want to make sure that I have these dates correct. Yes, tomorrow night or tomorrow I'm recording with Mel K, so that show will be posted this week on Mel K's channel. On Wednesday, I have a special guest that I'm going to record with earlier in the day, and then that will be played with the Daily Dose, and that is going to be Patrick Byrne. So if you're familiar with Patrick Byrne, that'll be Wednesday night. Next Tuesday, the 26th, me and Alpha Warrior are going to be co-hosting a show. It'll be the Daily Dose, but it'll be a 1-hour discussion with General Michael Flynn on everything that is going on in the world. And that is the night that I take off for the next few days for Thanksgiving break. But I probably will be doing shows and daily news briefs throughout that time every day but Thursday. So keep that in mind. I'll be doing my shows from a different location, but still be doing my shows during that time. So Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I think there'll be will be briefs and shows. So keep that in mind. But much love, guys. Respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. And we'll see you guys next time.
Spoon, that's impossible. Only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.